What if your child was mistaken for a criminal, simply because of the color of their skin? Imagine watching the justice system break your child down without asking a single question. In today's story, one boy's ordinary walk home turns into a moment that exposes everything wrong with unchecked authority. This video unravels the powerful, fictional story of Jaylen Carter, a 12-year-old boy wrongfully accused, and the stunning moment when the truth shatters everything. If you've ever questioned fairness, justice, or the cost of silence, this story will stay with you. And trust me, the ending is unforgettable. If this is your first time here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We tell stories that challenge, inspire, and reveal truths that often go unseen. Now, let's begin. Jaylen Carter was 12 years old, and the world, at least to him, still made sense. He liked chocolate milk, superhero movies, and the way sunlight danced through the branches on his street in late spring. His backpack was too big for his frame. One strap always slipped off his shoulder, no matter how many times he readjusted it. But he didn't care. That afternoon, school was over, homework forgotten. Jaylen had only one thing on his mind: the basketball court at Dawson Park. He lived just 6 blocks away, a neighborhood where the scent of barbecue often drifted through open windows, and folks nodded at each other from porches without saying a word. It wasn't perfect, but it was home. Jaylen moved with the energy of someone who believed the world was still good. Every bounce in his step, every glance at the sky, every thought of crossing up his friends on the court, it all pulsed with that easy, unfiltered joy only a kid can know. He wasn't thinking about danger. He wasn't worried about being watched. Because why would he be? He was wearing his favorite hoodie, the one with the comic book print across the back. His sneakers squeaked slightly as he walked, brand new and a little too white. He looked like any kid. That's what makes this story so hard to tell, because for Jaylen, this day wasn't supposed to be different. It wasn't supposed to be remembered, It was just supposed to be a walk to the park. Half a block away, inside a small corner store, tension was quietly unfolding. The owner, a middle-aged man with worry lines etched deep into his forehead, spoke quickly to the police dispatcher. He claimed someone had taken a handful of snack items and left without paying. No weapons. No confrontation. Just a kid, in and out. The responding officer was Brent Halley. Newer to the force, but already known for his hardline posture and gut-first instincts. When Brent arrived, the store owner's words came out jumbled. He was flustered, unsure. I think it was a black kid, maybe 12 or 13. He had a dark hoodie. Left quick. Didn't see his face. That was it. No footage. No name. No real description, but for Brent, it was enough. He didn't ask for more details. He didn't double-check the cameras. He didn't ask if it could have been a mistake. Instead, he walked outside, his eyes scanning the sidewalk like a hunter searching for movement in the trees. And that's when he saw Jaylen, the hoodie, the skin tone, the fact that he was alone. Brent's mind filled in the blanks the story never told. He narrowed his eyes. He didn't know Jaylen's name. He didn't know where the boy was going. He didn't know he had just left school with a perfect attendance slip in his backpack. All he saw was a match, one that didn't quite fit, but close enough. And in the next few moments, he would make a choice, one that couldn't be undone. Officer Brent Halley didn't wait. He didn't pause to ask himself if he had the right kid. He didn't slow down to consider what was at stake. He stepped out of the store like a man on a mission, one hand resting on his belt, the other already gripping a canister of pepper spray. Jaylen didn't even notice him at first. He was still walking, earbuds in, the music barely audible. Maybe he was humming again. Maybe he was thinking about the basketball court, about crossing up his friend Marcus like he did the week before. But that thought never got to finish, because by the time Jaylen turned to see the uniformed figure approaching, it was already too late. Psht! A sharp hiss cut through the air, followed by blinding pain. Jaylen screamed. The spray struck him square in the eyes. A fiery sting exploded across his face. His lungs tightened. His vision collapsed into darkness. He dropped his phone. His backpack slipped from his shoulder and hit the pavement with a soft, forgotten thud. He staggered backward, arms flailing, coughing uncontrollably, blinded by something he didn't understand. His voice cracked between gasps. What? Why? I didn't. But there was no answer, only the officer's grip. Rough. Unrelenting. Brent grabbed Jaylen by the arm, yanked him forward, and shoved him against the side of the patrol car. Jaylen cried out again, body trembling. His knees buckled as the world spun sideways. Still coughing. Still blind. Still screaming for help no one gave, people saw. A woman paused near the corner. A man slowed his jog across the street. But no one stepped in. No one questioned it. A uniform was enough. Brent threw open the car door, shoved Jaylen inside like evidence, and slammed it shut behind him. Jaylen curled into himself on the back seat. His breath came in shallow waves. His eyes poured tears, not just from the spray, but from confusion, from fear, from something breaking inside. Outside, the officer walked calmly around the vehicle, climbed into the driver's seat, and started the engine. Jaylen's backpack remained on the sidewalk, unclaimed, unnoticed, and the car rolled forward, toward the station, toward something much worse. The metal door creaked open, and Jaylen was pulled from the back seat like luggage. His legs barely held him up. His eyes were swollen slits, raw and wet. The burning hadn't stopped. The air still stung. His shirt was damp with tears and mucus. His voice had faded to a hoarse whisper. Brent said nothing. He just dragged the boy through the back corridor of the station, past locked doors, past empty stairs. Jaylen tripped once. Brent didn't care. They reached the interrogation room. Gray walls, fluorescent light, no windows, one table, one chair. Brent shoved him inside. Jaylen stumbled, hit the edge of the chair, and fell into it awkwardly. His knees scraped metal. He gasped again. Seconds later, Brent returned with a cloth. Jaylen flinched as the officer grabbed his chin, gripping it tight. The cloth was cold wet, but the officer scrubbed with zero care. Every motion was rushed, rough, impatient. Jaylen tried to turn his face, but Brent's hand clamped harder. Hold still, the boy whimpered. And when Brent finally let go, Jaylen's face was red, blotchy, and still pulsing with pain. Then the questions started. Brent leaned in close, voice sharp. Why'd you take it, huh? What was the plan? Steal and run? You think you're smarter than us? Jaylen's lips parted, shaking. I didn't take anything. I don't know what you're talking about. But Brent didn't stop. Didn't listen. He began pacing. Accusing. Not just of theft, but of being a problem. A statistic. A type. You kids are always pulling this crap. You don't care about anyone but yourselves. This is what's wrong with this city. Jaylen shrank in his chair. He was shaking now. His fingers clenched the sides like they were his last anchor to reality. I was just going to the park. He whispered, but Brent wasn't done. Don't lie to me. Admit it. You think your tears mean anything to me? Jaylen broke. The tears returned full force sobs, uncontrollable, breathless. He buried his face in his hands, shoulders heaving. It wasn't just fear anymore. It was shame. It was disbelief. It was the terrifying realization that no one in this building saw him as a child. Only a threat, and that was the moment something inside him began to crack. The door opened without a knock. Lieutenant Rosa Vega stepped inside, composed, sharp, her uniform pressed, her posture unshakable. She didn't say a word at first. She didn't have to. The scene spoke volumes. A crying boy slumped in a chair, red-faced, tear-streaked, barely able to lift his head. An officer looming over him, pacing like a predator who hadn't yet satisfied his hunt. Rose's gaze cut across the room, cool and deliberate. What the hell is going on here? Brent straightened, caught off guard but quick to cover. I apprehended him outside the corner store. Fits the description. Black kid, dark hoodie. Ran after a theft. Rosa raised an eyebrow. Her voice calm but precise. That's it. That's your probable cause. Brent shrugged, arms folding like a man defending a trophy. He resisted. I had to neutralize the threat. Brought him in for questioning. She looked down at Jaylen, who winced under the light, breathing in shallow, frightened gulps. His wrists still trembled. His face was what stopped her. Something in the way his eyes darted up and quickly back down. Familiar. Unshakably so. Rose's demeanor shifted. Not enough for Brent to notice, but enough to tell her gut. This isn't just a mistake. She took a step forward. What's your name, son? Jaylen hesitated, then whispered, Jaylen. Jaylen Carter. And in that instant, everything changed. The room went still. Rosa blinked once, then again. Carter, she repeated, her voice suddenly soft. She turned toward Brent, who stood like a statue, arms still crossed, unaware of the ground shifting beneath his feet. What's your full name? She asked, kneeling now, eyes level with the boy. Jaylen wiped his cheek with his sleeve. Jaylen Elijah Carter. Rose's lips parted slightly. The pieces fell into place with a jolt. Carter. Elijah. The photos on the commissioner's desk. The little basketball jersey pinned next to the framed medals. The boy at the summer barbecue, the one the chief carried on his shoulders that one year. Her head turned slowly back toward Brent. You didn't check his ID? Didn't ask for a parent? Didn't stop for even a second? Brent frowned, the first tremor of doubt crawling up his spine. What are you talking about? He matched the description. He was alone. What does it matter? Rosa didn't shout. She didn't need to. Her voice was colder than rage. You just pepper-sprayed the son of the state's top police investigator. The words dropped like stone into water. The ripple was instant. Brent's jaw slackened. His arms slowly fell to his sides. Wait, what? No, that can't. He's just some kid. But even he didn't believe it anymore. Rosa stepped away from Jaylen, her eyes never leaving Brent's. You made assumptions based on a vague description. And skin color. Brent opened his mouth, searching for a comeback, a justification, anything. But nothing came out. He stared at the boy in the chair, no longer just a suspect. Now undeniably someone who mattered. Someone with power behind him. Someone Brent had treated like trash on instinct alone, and for the first time that day. Brent Halley felt fear. Brent Halley stood frozen, his mouth opened. Then closed. Then opened again. But the words weren't there. He looked at Rosa, then at Jaylen, and finally at the ground beneath him, like it might explain how everything fell apart so fast. His skin had gone pale. The proud, assertive stance he carried minutes ago now hung limp like armor that no longer fit. In his mind, the scene began to replay, but not as a justification. This time, it looked different. He saw himself raising the pepper spray before the boy even spoke. He heard the hiss of the can, the scream that followed, the backpack thudding onto concrete. He watched his own hands tighten around a child's wrist. He heard the cuffs click shut. He saw Jaylen sobbing in the back of the cruiser, flinching under fluorescent light. Eyes swollen, voice trembling. The images came fast now. And for the first time, he didn't feel like a cop. He felt like a criminal across the room. Jaylen sat motionless, no longer crying, no longer pleading, just still. The kind of stillness that doesn't belong to kids. The kind that's earned too soon. In places too cruel. Brent glanced once more toward Rosa, hoping, begging for some sign that this could still be fixed. But her eyes were cold. And the silence between them said it all. The double doors of the precinct swung open with force. Bootsteps echoed fast, unrelenting like thunder rolling in from a distant storm. Every head turned. Every conversation halted. Director Marcus Carter didn't need to announce himself. The weight of his presence did it for him. He was a tall man, clean-cut, but unpolished, with a face carved by years of disappointment and duty. But today there was fire in his eyes, and nothing was going to stand in his way. He moved through the hallway like he built it. And maybe, in a way, he had. When he reached the interrogation room, Rosa opened the door without a word. He stepped inside, and for a moment, he didn't say anything. He saw his son first. Not the bruises, not the tear stains, just the boy. His boy, Jaylen. The armor melted. The father surfaced. Marcus dropped to one knee, his badge forgotten, his authority irrelevant. He reached out gently, his palm resting on Jaylen's back. Hey, I'm here. You're okay now. I got you. Jaylen blinked slowly, then leaned into him, his small arms wrapping weakly around his father's shoulders. No words, just breath, just safety. Marcus held him a little longer, long enough to feel the fear leave his son's body, or at least some of it. Then he stood and turned. His eyes found Brent, locked, unmoving. Tell me again why you thought this child was a threat. Brent straightened, but only slightly. The words stuck. The sweat gathered at his collar. Sir, I didn't know who he was. The description matched. He fit. Marcus raised a hand, stopping him cold. This isn't about who he is. He took a step closer. It's about who you are. Silence. Marcus's voice was lower now, dead calm, which only made it worse. You saw a young black boy near a store, and you made a choice. Not based on evidence, not on facts, but on fear, on assumption, on bias. Brent's shoulders fell again. This wasn't a mistake. This was a mirror. He pointed toward Jaylen. You didn't fail because that's my son. You failed because that's somebody's son. Brent opened his mouth once more, but there was nothing left to say. No defense. No rebuttal. Only consequence, and it was coming. Marcus took a step back, giving Brent one last look, not with hate, not even anger, just certainty. Officer Brent Halley, he said, voice carrying across the room. You are hereby relieved of duty. Effective immediately. No one spoke. No one moved. There is no place in this department for bias masked as instinct. No room for fear disguised as protocol. Brent swallowed hard, his eyes darting toward Rosa. But she didn't flinch. No one did. Your name, Marcus continued, will follow your actions. And we will make sure of that, he motioned to a nearby officer. Brent barely resisted as the escort took him by the arm. His badge, once a symbol of pride, now felt like a chain. His steps echoed hollow through the corridor, each one heavier than the last. No applause, no ceremony, just silence and the sound of a door closing. When the room emptied, Marcus turned back to his son. Jaylen sat quietly, shoulders hunched, eyes distant, like he was still trapped in the moment that had started it all. Marcus knelt again. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I wish I could take this day away. Erase it. Rewrite it." He placed a hand on Jaylen's shoulder. "But I promise you, this ends here. We won't let it happen again. Not to you. Not to anyone." Jaylen looked up slowly. His eyes still carried fear, but also something else. Trust. He leaned forward, arms wrapping around his father. This time, not out of desperation, but out of strength. A few feet away, the cuffs still sat on the table. Untouched, unspoken, unacceptable, and as they stood together, the storm finally began to clear. That day didn't just change one life, the narrator says. It exposed a truth, and it demanded justice, and justice had arrived. This is a fictional story, but the pain, the fear, the silence in that interrogation room, those are very real every day across cities and neighborhoods. Children like Jaylen face systems that don't see them. Not as kids, not as sons, not as human. We created this story to reflect what too many live through, to show what happens when power goes unchecked, and what can happen when it's finally held accountable. Justice doesn't begin with punishment. It begins with truth, and the courage to face it. We must hold power accountable, and never forget who justice is meant to protect. The final scene fades. Jaylen and Marcus walk side by side through the precinct doors. A father, a son, both forever changed but walking forward, together.